thanks, Olivia, for bringing me to this party. I have learned a lot. Here I am. Hi. So I had two nice papers to discuss, and I want to bring together a whole bunch of the issues, though. Vicki yesterday on tax inclusion, Ming Lee on debt, and Sandy's point, if you start out with a negative debt, what's your chances? What are your chances of ending up with some substantial amount of savings? Something that Karen Dinan, who was here a minute ago, and I may actually look at in the PSID real soon. Okay. Now, there's huge barriers to wealth accumulation in many minority families, particularly black families. There is no data set out there that includes child support debt and legal debt, along with all the other debts that you know about. Look at that list of debts. Okay? All right? Knowing that a third of black men will at least be arrested, and most will spend some time in prison. Okay? Most black kids live in single parent, at the bottom anyway, live in single parent households. And when those fathers go to jail, their child support is not reduced. So you're in a big hole, okay? Talk about home ownership. This is a paper I did, that Jim Gilliak did in a book I did with Mike Strain at the American Enterprise Institute. And look at home ownership among blacks, how much it dipped and how little it came back after the Great Recession. So this is looking at the lower middle class. This is looking at the working class, the second and third quintiles. Okay. Now, let's look at wealth accumulation. As one of the authors said, wealth begets wealth and facilitates transfers across generations. But what are your priorities? Where do retirement savings come in? Certainly you want to eradicate unsecured debt because that limits access to credit markets and everything else. And oh yeah, give me this ESA, give me these precautionary emergency savings, definitely. But then, down payment for a home, very important, particularly the Latino families that we saw yesterday, okay? Business startup funds, and then where's retirement savings in this list? Somewhere lower down, I'm afraid. Okay. Now, there's some progress. And if you haven't looked at the labor market lately, the bottom end is rising rapidly, and it's not just the people who are serving you food today and who were pouring drinks at the bar last night. There's a big movement up at the bottom end, and that, I think, is really good. And more employers want to cater to workers' needs. They want to avoid turnover, and I think that's good. Huge change in the last 10 years. There are 20% fewer blacks in prison now, imprisonment's fallen, and there's been a 50% increase in those who've gone to college. So this idea that you used to be able, 10 years ago, you could say there are more black men in prison than in college, wrong. That's good. But pension wealth hasn't increased greatly for a large number of reasons, mostly lack of incentives and low incomes and possibly low on a scale of preferences. Social Security, I made this point yesterday. And then private pensions, what they do is they add another leg to old age security as technological change and the rise of robotics and AI call for wider ownership of capital assets versus pension funds. So this is a talk I gave to the National Academy of Sciences about 3 years ago, and it was entitled, Who Owns the Robots? And what it shows you is the huge, whoops. There you go. Sorry about that. Who owns the robots? It shows you the big decline in the labor share of national income since 2000, okay? From 65% to 56%, and Karen pulled a Fed figure up yesterday and says it's pretty much leveled off at that, okay? So capital is winning and labor is losing. How do we make everyone else win? Help everybody own some robots. Get into a pension fund, okay? And I really think that's kind of one of the answers, all right? I know the audience would like that, especially the sponsors. So you need to build emergency savings and portable DC pensions and auto IRAs and separate credits. And in December 22, Secure 2.0 came in. It's a good start, even with the devil in the details. And there's two nice papers that agree and address the issues, one by Carl and Berkisha Sams, and one by David and Mark and Dollar Bill, who was in here. So, the first paper, I think Davis and Sams are really good on the principles and the big picture of limits to tax policy and all this other stuff, but one thorny issue is their dislike of tax preference savings. Now, that's what drives the incomes of most of the people, your sponsors, Olivia, I'm sure, and most of the people in this room. And so I like the idea of credits to start with, retirement credits, get people into the market. But that tax preference, as you saw in the Johns paper, yields a bigger payoff in percentage terms for blacks and minorities in the long run, as long as they stick to it. Okay, so there should be limits to the amount of tax-preferred savings. I like that idea. But also the idea of compound interest and allowing tax-free savings to multiply is really important. So I want to keep that. Now, John, Ari, and Gail, great point that ESAs are very complementary to accumulation and not decumulation of retirement savings. And without precautionary ESAs, DBs are depleted. ESA aids are auto-enrollment, payroll deduction. I mean, you want all this stuff, okay? And with the ESAs for the unbanked, where's Vicki? Vicki talked a lot about that yesterday. Most of the industry now uses a debit card. You have a card. It's essentially loaded on a card. It's like your SNAP card, and you can use that card when you need it. So I think that's how you get around that, okay? But that's not going to help everything in the long run. All right. Building portable retirement comes next. Pension accounts are very limited, as you saw. But you need access to simple, he didn't get to this part, portable retirement plans with auto payroll deduction. Some universal auto IRAs in 6 states, maybe 14. It's not exactly Australia with the superannuation, but you're getting close. If you make $1 in Australia, 15 cents goes into your DC account. Of course, we're going to worry in a minute about who's going to manage that account. But so the portability issue is key, and the owner, the employer sender, the new employer receiver. It's going to take a while to get this together. The Treasury Department is even going to trace lost amounts that are somehow forgotten. And here comes 2.0, where pension benefits from targeted refundable 50% savers credits can be up to $1,000 and would really help, I think, get things started. Okay? So it's good to have a specific attention on the issue by IRS with incentives for employers and employees to build accounts. But the devil's in the details, and there's a lot of the details that haven't been worked out yet. You need pension fund managers with low overhead and limited plan choices. Okay? You can invest in vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. You can't buy Canadian mining futures. Something like the federal employee retirement system is what's needed. We need to get rid of asset tests, and I'm also going to worry about garnishment. Is somebody going to garnish your baby bonds accounts because you owe some money, let's say, for child support or for some other reason? Okay. Now, Auto 529s at childbirth, which is now universal in Oregon and a few other states, it's not the amount. It's the idea of focusing on the future, making you think about, oh, I've got this account, what's it for, and think long run. And I think that's the big thing. Another clearly important thing that's been proposed, a $10,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers, would really be helpful. So there's a lot of ways at getting at asset building. I'm just not sure we're going to get there given the hurdles, and that's my problem. Now the black middle and upper class is growing very rapidly. There's a lot of stable families. Those people look a lot like everybody else. When you get up to look at the top, they save, they do all the rational things. It's the people at the bottom and the kids who are starting out with single parents who have a real hard time making ends meet, even building assets, and men who've been in prison where you carry that with you and the debt for a long time. So that's what I'm worried about. So, final slide, another preference question. In a tight labor market with lots of vacancies, employer concerns about reducing turnover, what do mobile workers value from an employer? Maybe Jamie would know. I'm gonna be done before that.
Good.
Jamie might be able to answer this. Do you want health insurance? Do you want at least partial work-at-home days? Or do you want employer-subsidized ESAs and subsidized pensions? What's your preferences? Do employers offer all of them? Only a few of them. So that's all I got, and I got through it pretty quickly. And again, thanks for having me, and hopefully raising some of these bigger issues and pulling this volume will pull things together in a way that makes us all think about, well, what's the best way forward? Thank you.